All right, today I'm gonna bring you through one of my favorite types of workouts, and that's a post-activation potentiation workout. If you don't know what that concept is, you're in for a treat. But also in this workout video today, we're gonna be talking about the new Born Primitive high top shoes. Yes, they have a new high top shoe dropping. I'll share some thoughts on them, talk specs and whatnot, and also, discuss how they feel. Today we have squats, some jumps, some reverse lunges, some jumps, or I guess lunge jumps, and then a nice little WOD to finish up the workout for some conditioning. It's gonna be a perfect day to test these shoes because I also wanted to test their ankle flexibility for squats, but let's dive in to the workout. All right, so the Savage 1 high top here. Essentially, it's the Savage 1 with an increased boot. Now, what I'm curious about with this shoe is if it's easy to get on in the sense of like, how's the lacing? Because for example, the high top shoes that I like for training and just wearing casually are number one, my like goated shoe that I wear the most is the Strike Movement Transit Street Trainer Mid. I'll wear that shoe loose, and if I want to train in it, I'll also just leave it as is. I don't really adjust the laces. This shoe feels like definitely a high top where you're gonna have to adjust the laces every time you take it on and off. It almost kind of reminds me of like a combat boot in ways. Almost kind of similar to some of the Invictus shoes that I've worn for high tops. But other high top shoes in the workout sector, cross-training shoe sector that I typically like include the Noble high top shoe as well. This shoe, I think honestly, right out of the gate feels better than that shoe. Just has a better toe box width like the normal Savage 1. And thank God, but Born Primitive increased the padding on this tongue. One of my main gripes with the Savage 1 is that really thin mesh tongue rubbing. They increased the padding on this. Thank God, because if they didn't, I feel like we'd have some serious rubbing issues in these, but I don't foresee that happening. Gonna get into some warm-ups. We're gonna hit some hamstring curls in the rower and some adductors before getting into squats because your man's gotta warm up his knees, but check them out. Pull up my knee sleeves a little bit so you can actually see the boot in these bad boys. I don't feel like ankle restrictions are gonna be an issue in these, honestly. Like some of the high tops, you can have some restriction, especially with squats, but I don't think these are gonna have any issues. The ankle feels pretty pliable, which I like. All right, so we're gonna do some density sets on the hamstring curls. Katie, we're doing post-activation potentiation today. What is that? Go.
I don't know.
You work out with me all the time. You should know, because I talk about it obsessively.
Say it again.
Post-activation potentiation. So I did my capstone, my master's on.
I don't know.
All right, so for warm-ups here, we're gonna do some density work. So just basically a time-based amount of curls. For these sets, pre-squats, I try to hit about 20 seconds or so. All right, for these, we're gonna do a bent leg Copenhagen with some hip dips. Basically do like 15 to 20 seconds through, just to warm up the hips, adductors, etc. For me personally, at this point in my lifting and training career, a lot of people get into it about warm-ups, like you need to be at this intensity before you work out, or you need to do this warm-up, or you don't even need to warm up. I just maybe I'm cynical, but I just don't care. I don't care about the debate. I think it's a stupid debate. I think the big thing to drive home is, look, be smart and an adult about your time management and what's gonna actually get you prepped for your workout. All right, so for the first flow of the movement pairings, we have a 5x5 on squat paired with 3 box jumps. Goal is to take, anywhere around like 20 to 30 seconds of rest post squat. Nice. Katie rocking the CXT2s from Tier. She uses these primarily for her lifting and barbell focus days. And then for her other days, she has a Lulu Charge Feel 3, and then also a Nike Free Metcon 6 that she rotates through. And some new barefoot shoes from Lono, the Easies. All right, set 1 here. And yes, we're not going crazy heavy today. When I tell you guys, I have not been able to squat without knee pain in so long, especially high bar, that I'm easing back in because I've finally figured out a few things in my training. It's just my body that I'm really trying to stay up on. So we're gonna build back slowly, integrate a nice smooth tempo. But let's talk post-activation potentiation. What exactly is it? So right now, we're in the quote-unquote activation phase of this training style and methodology. So essentially, we're using a strength-focused movement to ramp our nervous system up. Now we're gonna move into a power-focused movement, or plyometric. So this box jump to capitalize on that activated context or ramped up nervous system. So the theory around this application is by creating a higher stimulus from the activation set, we're capitalizing on that heightened state with this power focused movement. Now, how you would set these up, it can vary a lot depending on context, training age, intensities needed for sport, etc. But in general, I'll usually try to use anywhere from like a 65 to 85% of my strength. And then depending on what that movement is, move into the plyo or power focus movement. I love doing a squat to a box jump. You can also use a broad jump. Basically, think about replicating what you're doing in your prime movement with said power movement. So if, for example, we're barbell benching, doing a plyo push-up could be an awesome one. Now, will some of these sets that we're doing today be lower than what the prescribed intensity is in the research? Yes, but again, it's more or less molding these to what we have going for us regarding our training, what we're trying to do, and just making it work. So for example, with that first set, are we getting that much activation? Maybe, maybe not. The big thing is like understanding that, look, I haven't back squatted in quite some time with a high bar stance. And so that for me, it's not nearly close to my max all time, but for where I'm at in my training age right now and just journey, this has a good, nice little adaptation. So pairing that with the jump, honestly, I would argue it's probably giving a little bit more adaptation than what I would get if I was perfectly fresh, no knee pain, etc. So all that to say, when applying PAP or post-activation potentiation to your training, remember to contextualize. Don't be so black and white and just to plug and play. I think as you do more of this type of training, so blending strength with the plyo, you'll learn about rest times and what's gonna work best for you regarding your output activation. I'll give you some guidelines too in my next set as we get going. So for some practical application guidelines, if you're programming for yourself or you're just starting with this type of training methodology, is usually if you're using a higher intensity on that first activation set, you will want longer rest between this movement and your power focus movement. So generally in research, for example, a few minutes tends to be, the sweet spot for most. However, most people don't necessarily have that much time. So that's why I like to kind of adapt and plug and play. Whereas like for us, we're kind of getting right into it, but we're also not pushing an intensity that's completely burying us. And we're also not using a second power movement that is, out of our ability to clearly achieve. So for example, using this height box, we can easily make this, but focus on getting a nice power generation to this hip extension and landing with a straighter leg posture. So it's not the most intense power focus movement, but we're still getting a nice adaptation and working with what we have based on our time constraints, where we're at. So again, the big thing is just plug and play. And don't be afraid to bend what's traditionally used to see, is it gonna work for me? Does it work for my training? Do I feel a good adaptation, and am I seeing a good adaptation from this type of training? That is the main point. All right, Katie with 125 on the bar. Nice. This is her fourth set. Nice, Katie. Good smooth tempo. Fun fact, y'all, this is the first, I would say, actual training block where Katie's high bar back squatted consecutively in probably her whole life. She's crushing it, killing it. Great tempo, great form, moving straight into the jumps. Let's get it. There's a microphone on the box that she's not gonna step on and crush. Nice, a little bit more height. Faster off the ground. Yes, better. Land more on the box. Yeah, good. All right, set 3, 205 on the bar. These BPs have been feeling awesome, not gonna lie. The ankle does not feel too restrictive. Like I don't have them laced crazy, crazy tight. But even if you like them a little snugger like this, but not like, fully cranked, you will get good range of motion in my opinion. I'm not having them pull my foot up off the ground or anything. Ooh, feeling floaty today. Woo! So good. Katie's top set, rep 3. Nice, Katie. Great depth. Come on. Big chest. Out of the bottom. Yep. Nice. All right, set 4. Got 225 on the bar. these have been feeling pretty good today. Very stoked on that. Super, super stoked to finally not be in pain with squats. It's been so long, y'all, working through quad tendon issues. All right, going into the boing boings. Whew, feels good. We're gonna have one more set. Probably aim for 235. So for context, the last 2 weeks, I've hit 225. First week was with knee sleeves. Second week was without knee sleeves. To just build my confidence again, moving through this range of motion with this exercise. And I feel like on the traditional lens of where we're at with social media and exercise, people would be like, oh, 225, that's not impressive. Brother, to be out of pain finally, I am so happy with this. So happy with this. And I feel like, I was talking to my buddy the other day who was like, oh, don't video my set. It's not that impressive. And it was like 275 for 6. How many people do you know that can squat 275, 2.6, ass to grass in your normal life? Not the echo chamber of exercise and fitness influencers that we follow and look to, because obviously that is the upper echelon of that type of person and lifter, etc. Just like, main thing I'm trying to say is just be happy, man. Be happy with what you can do, because trust me, it's a lot more impressive than we give ourselves credit for. All right, top set here, 235, final fiver. All right, so for part 2 of the workout, we have reverse lunge with the barbell, doing 2x6, and then we have that paired with some rhythm drop lunges. So for this, we have 6 on each leg, 2 sets through, but after each set, we are doing the drop lunge flow. So similar to the squat and the jump, staying on theme with that PAP. All right, so let's get to this. Oh, these BPs feel good. Like, this feels pretty dang good. Usually with high tops, this can be one of those movements that feels a bit limiting, but these feel pretty dang good. Now we go 3 baby pogos into drop lunges. So oh God, that was ugly. Oh, those are ugly. Top set here. Okay, if you asked me and said, hey, what is your all-time favorite movement for building a nice glute or a big booty? I have 3 off the top of my head. Reverse lunge, perform from a slight deficit if you want to go crazy. Walking barbell lunge. Why walking? Why barbell? Because with that barbell, generally you're gonna have a little bit more forward lean just to stabilize. And what I find is that stand up, that extension of the hip with that barbell loading, just an absolute glute cooker. And then you also have rear foot elevated split squat, and you can perform those normally or with like a Hatfield air variation if you want to hold something. Those will also cook and build your glute, but with that, be careful getting into it because that will beat your adductors up as well. But this is one of my favorite movements for building some cake, y'all. I'll take that one to the bank. So these drop lunges, fantastic for nice lengthened eccentric like decel loading. That's why I've been doing these and I've loved them. They've been great for knee health. 1, 2, 3, drop. 1, 2, drop. 2. Oh, I'm cooked. All right, so final little conditioning circuit we're gonna do is 20 rounds, 3 reps, 135 power cleans, 5 push-ups, 7 air squats, rest for a minute after rounds 8 and 15. This is supposed to be for time, but we're just gonna do it as a chill pace just because we already did the first half of this workout, and honestly, I'm not trying to absolutely torch myself for tomorrow's workout. So we're just gonna do a nice steady state. Let's get it. All right, so we ended up modifying that last circuit to just 15 rounds. Took a rest on 7 and 12. Finished it right around like 11:30, so honestly pretty good with that rest baked in. We modified it just because we were both cooked, and we decided that, look, like jumping into 20 cleans and swings, even though it wasn't crazy heavy, likely isn't the best move regarding DOMs, especially while we're trying to mitigate fatigue as we ramp up to our high rocks in a week and a half in Anaheim. But want to show you guys the shoes. I'm going to shoot the rest on the truck bed here because folks came into the gym and I don't want YouTube to flag me for music. But let's talk about these BP shoes. So I have two colorways here that Born Primitive sent. We have this gray colorway that has this cool textured gum outsole, and then we have a classic black and gum. Now, a big thing to note with this is you're still getting the base of that low top Savage 1. So if you've ever worn that shoe and you really like how it fits and just the overall feel of it, you're gonna have a very similar experience in this model regarding its just structure, the toe box, its heel, its midfoot, and its overall last construction. The big difference is obviously the high top material here, which is this padded mesh. Now, a big thing I like about this, which I already mentioned, is that they made the tongue a little bit more padded in this model. I think they definitely had to do that, especially with a high top shoe, because that would have cooked all of our ankles had they left that traditional low top, like low thin mesh tongue on this shoe. But we still have the same gum outsole and texture that was used in the normal Savage 1. And then we have that dual EVA. So back here in the heel, it's a little bit more dense. Up here in the front, it's a little bit more soft and pliable. Then we still have that knit upper construction with that TPU around the heel back here. As for the midfoot, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 eyelets that go up, and the tongue does have a top loop up here, and it does have a low gusset. So it does kind of keep that tongue in place, which I really like. Huge, huge win there for me when it comes to a high top shoe, especially if I'm gonna wear it loose. So I like that nice classy touch on their end to gusset that and, you know, spend a little extra or just formulate a little bit longer doing that. I also like that the lower midfoot here has actually been reworked a little bit. It doesn't have the same bubbling issue. Granted, like I didn't tie these as tight as I wear the low tops, so that might still have some issue because you do have a tiny bit here you can see, but definitely reworked, I think, in a good way. And I think if you have a higher instep and you really fill this shoe out, that'll be likely a non-issue for you, but low volume feet, it might still have some, but definitely looks better overall. You might still get, again, some bubble, but I don't think it's gonna be nearly as noticeable in the Savage 1. But that wraps up this video, y'all. Appreciate you guys joining me for this one and learning a little bit more about PAP and just these shoes. Katie, do you have any parting words for us? Any insightful, meaningful sentences and words that you wanna leave people with?
Anytime Derek and Ellie give us a workout, it makes me want to die inside. So shout out to Derek and Ellie.
Our friends Derek and Ellie gave us that conditioning circuit and we got cooked from it. But all that said, see you guys in the next one. Appreciate you being here. Like the video, drop, subscribe to the channel. Peace.